Hey everyone, this is Joe with the Adapt team, and in this video I'm talking about Adapt AV receivers and displays. The first thing I will say about these types of devices is that the Adapt modules are in fact identical. This is of course because as far as control goes, TVs and AVRs control in exactly the same kinds of ways. With that said, we really only have two modules, right? So we have one display module and one receiver module, and these two modules can control any TV or AVR. And of course, we can control these devices in various different ways with Adapt. We can control either basic IR or using a third-party module. We'll see that those two methods are very similar. We have Adapt Dynamic IR, which is kind of a better way to do IR. We have RS-232 control, TCP, and CEC control, all kind of just natively built into Adapt very easily. We will also see that we can use our Adapt Display module to control devices that maybe their logic is tied to that TV, such as TV lifts and projector screens and stuff like that. So the first method of control that we want to talk about is Adapt Basic IR or a third-party module. And what this picture is depicting right here is, I've already dropped in, say, my Adapt module, given it init, and given this display number 1. And all I've done is just simply define the signals that I need to use from my Adapt module, such as my discrete power commands, my volume commands, and my input commands. And I've just simply attached those commands to their respective functions on this IR driver that's in my Simple Windows program. So of course the assumption here is that you are already able to locate this driver in your Simple Windows program, drag it to wherever port that device is going to be controlled on, and then connecting the Adapt module to the appropriate functions on that IR driver. And then the only thing that changes if we talk about a third-party module is instead of an IR driver that we have on the right portion of our screen here, just replace that with a third-party module. That third-party module is handling the communication to the device, and that module just needs to be told when to turn power on and off and select inputs and stuff like that, and the Adapt module will fire those signals when appropriate. Notice that this display module does also have hardware feedback. So if we are using that third-party module, you're more than welcome to feed in feedback if you have it. Just keep in mind that if you are using hardware feedback, the system will rely on that feedback. And if we're not getting the appropriate feedback, that could throw the system out of whack. And so this is, basic IR, and we call it basic IR because it's, how we've been doing IR in Simple Windows for years and years and years. Certainly before even my time with Crestron, you were doing IR in this exact way. And really the only issue with doing it that way is that if you ever want to change this IR driver, now you've got to open up Simple Windows, pull in your new driver, copy the signals from the old driver to the new driver, recompile and reload. And sometimes you had to do this just to even test an IR driver. So now it takes sometimes 10 minutes to 15 minutes to test an IR driver. And so what we've done is we've developed something that we call Adapt Dynamic IR. Dynamic IR is built into System Manager in our Adapt core, but it allows System Manager to define the IR driver that you want to use with your TVs and your AVRs. So instead of this IR driver being defined in Simple Windows, it's now defined in System Manager, which of course means that it can change at runtime now in that short little update procedure that we went through. We have included a handful of Adapt Dynamic drivers for the most popular TVs and AVRs out there. You can find those included in our examples folder, and in fact we reference them in our 26-room example. We have things like LG, Sony, Samsung, Sunbright, and various others in our examples folder. For more information on if you want to create your own Adapt Dynamic driver or any other information about maybe you want to learn in a new driver from Toolbox, there is a full write-up on dynamic IR in our reference guide and our adapt forums, and of course we'd be happy to assist in either creating a new driver or learning in a new one or anything like that. Now, as far as our program that we're programming our training residents here in Simple Windows, all that we actually care about is where this signal that we call packet TX is connected to, and we're going to take a look at that here. So if I tab over to my Simple Windows program, you can see here is where I've got my basic IR driver kind of connected, and I just have this IR driver in my program. If I wanted to say now make this a dynamic display module, let me go ahead and delete these signals, maybe comment out this IR driver for just a sec. Again, all we care about is this packet transmission symbol here. And what we're going to do is we're going to connect this packet TX signal here to the IR slot that this device is going to be controlled on. So let's just say if I was controlling this TV from my Pro 3, I would want to go here, right click my IR slot, insert device extender, and you see sure enough there's packet transmission. Of course that's what packet TX stands for, and I'll just land that signal right there. And that's all that Simple Windows cares about in regard to landing this packet TX signal. The core, our Simple Sharp Adapt core, is going to take care of sending a raw packet of information to this IR slot at the appropriate time to turn on this TV or turn it off or what have you. And it's going to tell this IR slot to fire that power on command or whatever command on a specific port number. You can see that's actually another thing that System Manager gets control over, is the port number that these commands are going to fire on. So that's really powerful. And so that's how Adapt handles IR for both AV receivers and displays, as you can either choose to pull in your old school traditional IR driver, or perhaps we might recommend that you use our Adapt Dynamic IR feature as well. One of the cool things about our starting template, and so actually it's already in our program right now, is we've kind of already given you in this case it's 32 displays that are kind of already done. And of course the reason that there's 32 displays is because we had a DM 32 by 32. But if we take a look at these, what's most important about these is this fact that we not only have this packet transmission signal filled out already for us. We'll come back to Command TX in just a sec. But this packet TX is already landed on, say, the packet transmission extender on my video switcher output 1 RMC. And so essentially what this means is that right now I have 32 TVs in my system that are already connected, or at least if I still had my 32 by 32, they would already be connected to their individual RMCs. We'll see that with this Command TX signal in just a second. I can actually now control these TVs over 232 IP or CEC from those outputs as well. And so again, right out of the gate, without having to do any additional programming, I'm set up to control IR or any other method just by utilizing our starting template. And so that's really cool. And so what I'm going to do, just because I'm here already, is I'm going to eliminate these extraneous TVs from my system. Of course, I only have an 8x8 in this training residence program, and so I am going to take advantage of what I've got, but I only need 8 of these TVs here. Okay, so that just about covers basic IR and dynamic IR, and now we'll kind of shift gears into talking about this Command TX signal. What we call this is adapt command strings. The idea here is very, very similar, is that we wanted to utilize System Manager, and instead of defining the IR driver, we're now defining the exact strings that we want to use to control your device. And this can be over CEC, RS-232, or TCP/IP, whatever you prefer. But again, we're defining this in System Manager instead of Simple Windows, so we can update at runtime without taking the system down. The real reason that we wanted to do it like this is because we discovered over the years that bad third-party modules will bog down your system. We have seen absolute, horror stories about third-party modules, wreaking havoc throughout the system. Now, not every module is a bad module. Certainly, some are written much better than others. However, bad third-party modules will bog down your system. So typically, there's no need for these modules for what we're trying to do inside of our framework. So you may be thinking, oh, now I need to know the strings for all these devices. And the good news is that we've included a bunch of strings in our 26-room example for some of the most popular TVs. And we also have a pretty big repository of these strings in a spreadsheet kind of format on our ADAPT forum. So we have resources to assist with you finding these strings. Now again, in simple Windows, all that we're going to care about is where this command TX signal is connected. So again, when this living room is told to turn on, this system manager is going to take whatever string is in the power on text field there, and our ADAPT core is going to transmit that to this serial string right here, this command TX coming off of our ADAPT display module. And then it's your responsibility kind of as the programmer to tell this signal where it should be going. In this case, obviously, if I'm using a display controlled 232 in this room, I'm most likely controlling that from this DMRMC. And so again, we've given you this nice convenient command TX signal already married or kind of already landed to this output 1's RMC. So without any work, I can do dynamic IR through this packet transmission that's already landed here, or I can use my command strings that's already connected to the COM port that's right there. Now, one thing that we've done in our starting template is we've not only connected it to this COM port, but we've also connected it to the CEC transmit as well. So with this, you would only, of course, want to use one or the other of these two, either the 232 or CEC. But if you're not using 232 and you are using CEC, then this module will still work without you having to touch it at all. And of course, we have also provided those CEC strings, actually two sets of them. One is right here and the other down here, just depending on what your TV may be expecting. So I'm actually, again, done, and I can control these TVs in a multitude of different ways with just these two signals, of course, connected to their respective location. If I wasn't controlling these TVs off of my DM output card, I would just land these signals on whatever COM port or whatever IR slot I was using for control of that device. The last thing I want to say about command strings is about TCP/IP. So TCP/IP, of course, is very similar in regard to command strings and how we can utilize them. So here I've added a TCP client. Oftentimes we'll use our program is ready on the connect here, so that we are just always connected to this TV to turn it on, kind of at a dime, at the drop of a dime, that is. And what I can do with this command TX is also land this signal on my TCP/IP client that's going to govern this TV. So say for a Sony TV, you type in the IP information here in my configure device dialog here, my IP address and my port number, hook in my command TX, and then we've given you the strings for that Sony XBR here in System Manager for you to use. So yeah, that's what ADAPT AV receivers and displays are all about. No matter how you want to control your devices, we've tried to make it nice and easy, and we've also tried to make it fast. If you start with our starting template and you're using a DM or something like that, we've made it nice and easy for you to do that. So we will see you in our next video where we are going to talk about sources. Thank you.